Imagine, just for a second, that a global event completely wipes out your entire industry.
Like literally overnight.
Literally overnight. The doors are locked, the borders are closed, and your revenue drops to absolute zero.
Yeah, which is terrifying.
Right. So what is your very first move? If you look at the standard corporate playbook, the answer is pretty much unanimous. It's mass layoffs.
Exactly. When the spreadsheet goes red, the headcount goes down.
You cut your losses, you shrink your overhead, and you just, try to hibernate until the storm passes.
That is exactly how modern business is wired to operate. Especially, particularly in low-margin industries that depend entirely on physical movement.
But for today's deep dive, we are looking at a company that took that exact playbook and just threw it entirely out the window.
They really did.
We're talking about Lion Travel, which is a massive Taiwanese travel agency. And the numbers we have in our sources today, they present this really fascinating paradigm.
Oh, the numbers are insane.
Right. Because by 2025, not only did Lion Travel survive the pandemic, but their earnings per share, their EPS, hit 17.4.
Wow.
Which is, get this, 5 times the industry average.
5 times. Those are the kinds of numbers you expect from a tech unicorn during a boom.
Exactly. Not a legacy travel agency recovering from the worst crisis in the history of global tourism. Their gross margin went from 10.7% up to 16.8%, and their overall revenue hit 30 billion new Taiwan dollars.
It's staggering.
So our mission today is to figure out exactly how they pulled off these record-breaking numbers by doing the exact opposite of what standard business strategy dictates.
Right, both during a global crisis and, crucially, during the current AI revolution.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand where they are now, we really have to look at the darkest days of 2020.
Yeah, when the travel industry was just totally frozen.
Right. Lion Travel had over 1,000 employees at the time.
And under normal circumstances, those employees are let go.
Obviously. But the board of directors made a radically different decision.
They did. The board decided to take zero pay themselves.
Zero pay.
Yep. The vice presidents took half pay, and the base level employees kept their full salaries.
Which, that sounds completely counterintuitive from a financial perspective, but it was how they deployed those resources that really stands out. Like when the borders were slamming shut, there were about 70 Taiwanese tourists stranded in Peru. And Lion Travel just chartered a flight for 4 million TWD simply to bring those 70 people home.
Which is a huge expense.
Huge. And then later on, when a geopolitical conflict caused the Dubai airport to close, they mobilized over 100 staff members.
Wow, 100 staff.
Yeah, from sales to marketing to finance, just to handle the crisis, secure hotel rooms, rebook flights, and talk to the families of the travelers.
And when the general manager was asked about the strategy behind this, like whether they sat down and calculated the cost of keeping 1,000 people on full salary or dropping $4 million on a single rescue flight, the response was really revealing.
What did they say?
They noted that they, quote, didn't even use an abacus.
Didn't even use an abacus.
Right. There wasn't time to calculate the return on investment for compassion. It was a decision driven purely by their corporate culture and a profound sense of empathy. They viewed their customers as an extension of their responsibility. So when someone is stranded in a closed airport, the priority is retrieval, not, cost analysis.
Okay, it sounds very noble, but I really have to push back a little here.
Sure enough.
Because it's like keeping the engines running on an airplane that is permanently grounded.
Right, you're burning fuel.
Exactly. You are burning expensive fuel, but you aren't going anywhere. So how does a company actually avoid insolvency while paying 1,000 idle people?
Well, the crucial distinction there is that the staff wasn't idle.
Oh, there weren't.
No. Lion Travel understood that if the staff just sat at home staring at blank screens, their skills would atrophy and morale would totally collapse. So they essentially manufactured strategic busy work. They took groups of 40 to 80 executives and deployed them to rent houses in rural areas across Taiwan.
Wait, rural areas? Like where?
Places like Hualien, Taitung, and Yilan.
So they shifted their top executives from managing international logistics to conducting deep, on-the-ground market research in the countryside.
Exactly. And for the rest of the staff, they actually partnered with local agricultural boards.
Huh.
Yeah, they had their travel agents helping local farmers sell fruit and flowers for charity.
Wow. Selling flowers obviously wasn't going to replace international travel revenue.
No, of course not. But it was designed to keep their sales DNA alive, as they called it.
It
kept the teams talking to people, solving problems, and just maintaining a connection to the public.
So it served as almost like a massive company-wide team-building exercise.
Yeah, but with a highly strategic underlying purpose. Because all of that seemingly random activity, the executives spending weeks out in the rural counties, it led directly to a massive realization.
A realization about a shifting demographic in the country, right?
Exactly. And that realization ended up changing their entire business model.
So think about your own industry for a moment listening to this. How often does a forced pause actually lead to better market research?
Almost never.
Right. Because through that deep dive research in the local markets, the team realized a major demographic shift was happening. By 2025, 20% of Taiwan's population would be over the age of 65.
Which is roughly 4 to 5 million people.
That's a huge chunk of the population.
And an aging population with disposable income and free time represents a massive market for domestic travel.
But, and this is key, capturing that market requires understanding the specific pain points of that demographic.
Right. And what do elderly travelers generally hate?
Well, according to the sources, 2 things consistently ruin travel for elderly passengers: sitting in traffic jams and a lack of accessible restrooms.
Yes. And the line travel team looked at this and realized the perfect solution was trains.
Trains. Because Taiwan has 242 railway stations. Every single one is equipped with restrooms, and obviously, trains do not get stuck in traffic.
It is a beautifully simple insight, right?
Yeah.
But executing it requires a structural shift in how you design a travel product.
How so?
Well, you're no longer just booking a bus in a hotel. You are designing an experience around the railway system itself.
And that is where they created a product called the Mingri train.
Yes.
According to our sources, this operates less like transit and way more like a rolling luxury hotel.
Oh, absolutely.
They put 36 staff members on board just to serve the passengers.
36 staff on a train.
Yeah. And they serve 3-star Michelin quality food prepared by a chef from the Palais de Chine.
That's incredible.
And structurally, the journey itself is the actual product. When the train passes by a beautiful landmark like Guishan Island, the engineers intentionally drop the speed from 100 kilometers per hour down to 30.
Wow. So they literally slow down the trip.
Yes, and the lighting in the cabin shifts. The ambient music actually changes to match the scenery outside the window.
See, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the exact moment Lion Travel stopped being a simple ticket reseller and became a curator of lifestyle.
A curator of lifestyle, I like that.
Right, because the value is no longer in just moving someone from point A to point B efficiently. The value is in the curation of the journey itself.
And people pay a premium for that. They priced the Mingri train at 36,000 to 39,000 TWD for just a 2-day trip.
Which is a very premium price point, and that fundamentally altered their operational footprint.
Right, because before the pandemic, they relied on a volume game. They operated 83 physical storefronts.
33?
Yeah. But with this new focus on high-end, bespoke experiences, they shrank their physical storefronts down to just 26 locations.
Wow. They required fewer stores because the revenue per employee was vastly higher when selling these highly curated premium experiences.
Exactly. So they perfected this hyper-curated, high-touch model, but that very success created a massive vulnerability.
It did.
Because when the borders finally reopened in 2023, and 19 million Taiwanese rushed to travel abroad,
Total chaos.
they discovered that bespoke white glove service is incredibly difficult to scale.
Yeah, they were basically trying to push a fire hose of post-pandemic demand through the eye of a needle.
That's a great way to put it. They simply didn't have the human bandwidth. Customers were waiting 2.5 hours in physical stores just to get a passport processed.
2.5 hours.
Yeah, and they had exactly 2 employees left manning the main company inbox.
Only 2.
2 people facing over 100 highly complex, multi-layered emails every single day.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
It was taking 2 to 3 days just to triage the emails. And their official Line account, which had 2 million followers, they had to shut down its chat function entirely because they couldn't staff it.
Which is a critical failure point for a business that relies on trust and accessibility. I mean, when customers cannot reach a premium service provider, brand equity erodes instantly.
Exactly. And so if you are facing a massive labor shortage and a tidal wave of customer inquiries, what's the modern corporate reflex?
Oh, you buy an off-the-shelf AI chatbot.
Right. You just plug it into your website to deflect tickets and call it a day.
Yeah.
But Lion Travel took a completely different approach.
They really did. The general manager, Changa Chow, She understood that AI only works if it solves a genuine operational bottleneck.
Right.
Buying a generic chatbot just to appear innovative, that usually results in frustrated customers and zero improvement in actual throughput.
We've all talked to those useless bots.
Exactly. So she made a strategic decision to refuse handing the AI project over to the IT department.
Which is wild because normally a project like this gets totally siloed in IT, engineers build it, and then the sales team is basically forced to use it.
Right. But Changya Chao flipped that entirely. She made the sales team the actual architects of the AI.
Wow.
She turned it into a company-wide movement, operating on the belief that the people who should teach the AI how to talk to customers are the people who actually understand the customers.
So they essentially digitized their best talent.
Exactly. They pulled about 30 of their top human sales agents into a room and made them seed trainers.
Okay.
And for days, these elite agents debated and voted on the most effective ways to answer specific, complex customer inquiries.
So they weren't writing code.
No, not at all. They were injecting years of sales psychology into the system.
So think about your own customer service bottlenecks right now. Are you just trying to deflect support tickets, or are you actively digitizing your best human closers?
That's the real question.
Line Travel took their new AI, which they named Lily, and fed it all of this hard-won human knowledge.
Yeah.
They expanded Lily's knowledge base from a standard 1,000 question patterns up to 2,500 highly nuanced patterns.
And they continue to add about 100 more every month.
Which is amazing. Now, the underlying technology driving Lily is Azure OpenAI ChatGPT 4.1 Mini combined with Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RA technology.
Right. Let's clarify how RAG actually functions here, because the mechanism is what makes this really work.
Yeah, please do.
Instead of the AI trying to, memorize the entire company rulebook and hallucinating an answer, our RAG acts more like an open book test.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Lily is securely connected directly to Lion Travel's internal databases. So when a customer asks a question, Lily actively searches the live inventory vault before formulating an answer.
Meaning Lily wasn't engineered to just be a polite conversationalist that eventually says, please hold for a representative.
Exactly. Lily was engineered from day one to act as a smart sales agent. If a customer asks about a specific tour, Lily checks the internal systems, identifies open slots, and proactively recommends them in real time.
So they literally built a digital closer.
They did.
And because Lily was trained by top-tier human salespeople, it didn't just clear out the email backlog. It actually started aggressively closing massive deals while the physical offices were closed.
The numbers on this are wild. It highlights a massive shift in their conversion rate.
Yeah, share the numbers because they blew my mind.
By the fourth quarter of 2025, Lily was steadily converting 30 million TWD in revenue every single month.
30 million?
Every month. That is the equivalent sales output of 5 to 6 senior, highly experienced human sales agents.
And what's fascinating here is the complexity of the transactions being handled entirely by the AI. It wasn't restricted to just simple low-margin bookings.
No, not at all.
Our sources detail this specific interaction with a midnight shopper. Someone accessed the website in the middle of the night and began chatting with Lily about a Northern Europe Aurora tour.
Oh, an Aurora tour. That is a transaction requiring precise timing, specialized gear, complex logistics.
Exactly. It's not a simple flight. But Lily guided the customer through the entire consultation, answered all the nuanced questions, and closed a booking worth over 1 million TWD.
Just incredible.
And the AI also successfully navigated an upsell, moving the customer to business class for their flights.
$1 million sale and an upsell, all by an AI.
Yep. And another user purchased a 200,000 plus TWD high-end European tour purely through consulting with the AI.
What's fascinating here is that the strategy of using elite sales reps to train the AI directly translates to those high-ticket conversions. But it also raises a really interesting question about market segmentation. Because the demographics of the users dropping $1 million on a vacation at midnight via text are fundamentally different from Lion Travel's traditional clientele.
Oh, completely. The deployment of Lily uncovered a completely new demographic for them.
Yeah.
The average age of a customer booking a trip through the AI is 15 years younger than Lion's traditional customer base.
They inadvertently tapped into the digital native segment.
Yeah. It's like finding a hidden tribe of introverts. Internally, the staff at Lion Travel actually started calling Lily the I-person savior.
The I-person savior.
Yeah, I-person, referring to the introvert personality type on the Myers-Briggs scale.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because younger digital natives generally prefer to avoid phone calls or physical storefronts.
Right. They want to conduct their own research, ask specific questions, and execute high-value transactions entirely via text, and often outside of standard business hours.
Exactly. And that completely shifts the operational reality of the company. Currently, 16% of all Lion Travel's customer service happens at night.
During hours when the physical stores are totally locked and the human agents are off the clock.
So what happens to the human workers in this ecosystem? Because the instinct is to assume the AI simply replace those 5 or 6 senior agents.
Right, but it's the exact opposite. And this is really the ultimate synthesis of their entire multi-year strategy.
Tell me more.
By letting the AI handle 60% of the repetitive transactional questions, the logistical inquiries about visas or flight times, the human agents are finally freed from the crushing exhaustion of the inbox.
Oh, that makes so much sense. And by taking the friction out of the transaction, the AI allows the humans to actually add value to the experience.
Exactly. The humans are liberated to focus their energy entirely on providing the warmth, the empathy, and the high-end white-glove care required for luxury experiences.
Because you cannot automate the feeling of a chef serving you a Michelin star meal while a train slows down at Gushan Island.
No, you can't.
Then you cannot automate the empathy of a travel agent checking in on your elderly parents during a really complex trip.
Exactly. They retained their staff during the pandemic because they valued the human connection. And then they built an AI to protect that human connection from being buried under administrative tasks and high-volume inquiries.
It is just an incredible strategic arc. Just to recap for you listening, this is a company that looked at a global shutdown and flat out refused to discard their 1,000 staff members.
Yep.
They deployed them to conduct local market research, which spawned the discovery of an aging demographic, leading to the creation of ultra-luxury domestic trains.
It's brilliant.
And then when the borders opened and they faced a crippling labor shortage, they didn't just buy a generic tech tool.
No, they didn't.
They used their very best salespeople to train an AI that now generates 30 million TWD a month, capturing a younger demographic shopping in the middle of the night.
It is a masterclass in treating human capital as an asset to be deployed and amplified, rather than just, a cost to be cut during a crisis.
It really is. And it leaves us with one final profound thought to consider regarding your own field.
Oh, what's that?
If artificial intelligence is inevitably going to become the ultimate frictionless transaction engine, an entity capable of executing million-dollar sales and complex upsells while we sleep, then perhaps the future of human employment isn't about efficiency or productivity at all.
That represents a significant paradigm shift for modern business.
Right. In a world dominated by absolute AI efficiency, the only truly valuable commodity left in the market will be our uniquely human capacity for genuine, unautomatable hospitality.
Yeah.
The nuanced, empathetic care that an algorithm simply cannot replicate.
Definitely something to carefully consider the next time you are evaluating the cost of compassion on a balance sheet.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the standard playbook, keep exploring, and we'll catch you next time.